Hi guys, ready for chapter 10? Thursday, Thursday. Oh, okie dokie. The Thursday celebrations were a truly spectacular occasion. The hairy hooligans, fierce rivals the meatheads from the nearby Meathead Islands, sailed across the inner ocean to the Isle of Berg for this great gathering. The visitors set up camp in Blackheart Bay, which turned overnight into an empty desert of echoing seagulls into a bustling village of tents made out of sails patched up to be used at sea anymore. By the next morning, the long beach was packed with stalls and jugglers and fortune tellers. There was a happy confusion of Vikings spotting old friends and practicing their swordplay and yelling out the children to stop hitting each other right now. For Thor's sake, no, I really mean it. This time or else. Vast Viking men sat on uncomfortable rocks, gurgling loudly like gigantic sea lions in a holiday mood. Impressively large Viking women huddled in groups, cackling like seagulls and downing whole mugs of tea in one swallow. Despite old Wrinkly's gloomy forecast of terrible storms and typhoons, it was a gloriously hot June day, with not even a hint of a cloud in the offing. The young hero's final initiation test would not start until 2 p.m. that afternoon, so Hiccup spent the morning listening round-eyed to storytellers telling the tales of dirty Danes and pirate princesses. He was sick with nerves. He found it difficult to enjoy the occasion as much as he had done in previous years. Even Gobbo throwing up during the how many gulls' eggs can you eat in 1 minute competition failed to raise more than a faint smile in his pale, tense face. Hiccup's family had a picnic lunch overlooking the axe-fighting display. Hiccup could not eat a thing, and nor unusually could Toothless. He was in a difficult mood and turned his nose up at a tuna sandwich Val Halloranna offered. Good to keep your dragon's appetite sharp for the game, boomed Stoic, who was in an excellent mood. He'd won a bet on the Goggle Toad in the ugliest baby contest and was looking forward to seeing his son's brilliant display during the initiation test. As the day wore on, a hot wind suddenly started blowing out of nowhere. It was still sweltering, but ominous grey clouds were gathering on the horizon. There was the odd rumble of thunder in the air. Maybe old Wrinkly had been right about, thought Hiccup as he gazed upwards, and Thor was going to put on his traditional appearance at the Thursday celebrations. Bop! Will all youths hoping to be initiated into the tribes this year please make their way to the ground at the left of the beach? Hiccup gulped, nudged Toothless, and stood up. This was it. Hiccup was one of the last to get to the ground, which was a large area of wet sand just at the edge of the sea. The boys from his own tribe were already assembled their dragons, hovering a couple of feet above them. Everybody was chattering excitedly, and even Snotlout was looking nervous. The Meathead boys and their dragons seemed to be gigantic, rough-looking customers, far tougher than the hooligans. One in particular was a great hulking brute of a boy who looked 15 at least. Hiccup presumed that he was Thuggery Chief, Mogadon and Meathead's son, because a silver-grey monstrous nightmare about 3 feet tall was perched on one of his shoulders. It was looking like a fireworm, like a Rottweiler thinking evil thoughts. Fireworm acted unconcerned. An aristocrat never growls, purred Fireworm sweetly. You must be one of those Mongol nightmares. We pure Greenbloods, descended from the great Ripperclaw himself. He would never dream of doing anything so common. The silver nightmare's growling increased in volume. The crowd was assembling at the touchline. Hiccup tried not to notice Stoic the Vast blasting his way to the front with the great cries of, Out of my way, I'm the chief! 10 to 1 my son catches more fish than your son in this test, boomed Stoic, giving his old enemy Mogadon the Meathead a good prod in the stomach. Mogadon the Meathead narrowed his eyes and wondered whether to hit him. Maybe after the test. And which, asked Mogadon the Meathead, is your son? He is the tall one who looks like a pig with a skeleton tattoos and red monstrous nightmare? Nope, said Stoic happily. That's my brother, Baggybum's son. My son is that skinny one over there, the one with the toothless daydream. Mogadon the Meathead broke into a big smile. He slapped Stoic on the back and yelled, I take your bet and double it. Done, shouted Stoic, and the 2 great chieftains shook hands and bumped bellies on the bet. Gobber the Belch was in charge of this final stage of the initiation test. He was still looking a bit green from his unpleasant experience in how many gulls' eggs you can eat in 1 minute. competition. This had not improved his temper. "All right, you horrible lot," yelled Gobber. "This is where we find out if you are the stuff that heroes are made of. You will either walk out of this arena full members of the noble tribes of the hairy hooligans and merciless meatheads, or go into miserable exile forever from the Inner Isles. Let's see which it's going to be, shall we?" He grinned nastily at the 20 boys standing before him. "I shall begin inspecting you and your animals as if you were warriors about to go into battle. I shall produce you to the watching members of the tribes you hope to enter. Then the test will begin. You will demonstrate how you have asserted yourselves over these wild creatures and tamed them by sheer force of your heroic personalities. You will start by performing the basic commands of go, stay, and fetch. You will end by offering your reptile to hunt fish for you as your forefathers have done before you." Hiccup swallowed nervously. "The boy and dragon who impressed the judge, and me the most," Gobber bared his teeth grimly, "will receive the extra glory of being called the hero of heroes and most promising dragon. The boys and dragons who fail this test will say farewell to their families forever and leave the tribe to go where we do not care." Gobber paused. "Poetry," muttered Fishlegs, just loud enough for Gobber to hear. Gobber glared at him. "Heroes or exiles?" yelled Gobber the Belch. "Heroes or exiles?" yelled 18 boys frantically back at him. "Heroes or exiles?" yelled the watching hooligans and meathead tribes. "Please let me be a bit of a hero just for this once," Hiccup and Fishlegs each thought to themselves. "Nothing too spectacular or anything, just to get through this test." "Stand to attention with your dragons on your right arms," yelled Gobber the Belch. Gobber walked down from the rows of boys for the inspection. "Beautiful turnout," Gobber congratulated Thuggery the Meathead on his nightmare dragon, Killer, who spread out his shining wings to show off the wingspan, about 4 foot. Gobber stopped abruptly when he got to Hiccup. "And what, in the name of Wooden," demanded Gobber, balancing a little, "is this?" "It's a toothless daydream, sir," muttered Hiccup. "Small but vicious," added Fishlegs helpfully. "Toothless daydream?" blustered Gobber. "That's the smallest common or garden I've ever seen. What do you think, I'm an idiot?" No, sir," muttered Fishlegs reassuringly. "Just a little on the slow side." Gobber glowered dangerously. "A toothless daydream," explained Hiccup, "looks exactly like a common or garden except for the characteristic wart on the end of its nose." "Silence!" said Gobber in a very loud whisper, "or I shall throw you all the way to the mainland. I hope," he continued, "that this dragon hunts better than it looks. You and your fishy friend here are the worst candidates for the initiation I have ever had the displeasure of teaching. You are the future of this tribe, Hiccup, and if you shame us in front of the meatheads, I personally will never forgive you. Do you understand?" Hiccup nodded. Each boy then stepped forward to bow and hold up his dragon to the spectators, who applauded. There was a huge clapping for Snot-faced Snotlow and his dragon Fireworm, only rivalled by the mighty cheering for Thuggery the Meathead and his dragon Killer. "I give you last, but not least," Gobber the Belch was trying to be a bit enthusiasm into his yelling, "the fearsome, the terrible, the only son of Stoic the Vast, Hiccup the useful, and his dragon Toothful." Hiccup stepped forward and held Toothless as high as he could to make him look a little bigger. There was a slightly appalled silence, but people had seen dragons this small before, of course, normally scampering about after field mice, but in the wild, but not as noble hunting dragons, competing in initiation. "Size isn't everything," boomed Stoic, so loudly that you could have heard him from several beaches away, and banged his great hands together to start the applause. Everyone was terrified of Stoic's famous temper, so they joined in with polite wild cheering. Toothless was still in a mood, but he was delighted to be the centre of the attention, and puffed out his chest and bowed solemnly to the left and right. A few of the meatheads sniggered. "I've changed my mind," thought Hiccup, closing his eyes. "This is the worst moment of my life so far." "Okay, Toothless," he whispered into the little dragon's ear. "This is our big chance. Catch lots of fish here, and I will tell you more jokes than you have ever heard in your life, which will make that big red Fireworm dragon really cross." Toothless took a sideways glance at Fireworm. She was sharpening her nails at Snotlout's helmet with the smug certainty of a dragon who knows she's about to win the prize for the most promising dragon. Pop! The test began. Toothless didn't do too badly in the early obedience exercises, though he clearly thought it was extremely dull. It was now raining quite hard, and Toothless hated the rain. He wanted to go home and relax in front of a nice warm fire. Fireworm and Killer were going and fetching as soon as Snotlout and Thuggery commanded, and they were diving and breathing out fire as they did so, just to show off. Fireworm did some fancy acrobatic somersaults that had the crowd screaming and stamping their feet. "Start your hunting!" yelled Gobber the Belch. Every dragon except Toothless flew out to the sea. Toothless flapped back to Hiccup's shoulder. "Toothless got a tummy ache," he complained. Hiccup tried not to see his father looking surprised on the sidelines. He tried not to notice the crowd whispering to each other. That stoic son over there, no, not the tall one with the skeleton tattoos who looks like a pig, small skinny one who can't even control his minuscule dragon. "Don't forget," said Hiccup through gritted teeth, "the fish. I'm going to tell you all the jokes I've ever heard. Remember? Tell me now," said Toothless. Help came from the unexpected quarter. Snotlout broke off him, yelling, "Kill, Fireworm, kill!" to lean over and sneer at Hiccup. "What are you doing, Hiccup? You're talking to that newt with wings, are you? Talking to dragons is against the rules and forbidden by the order of Stoic the Vast, your soppy father." "Newt with wings?" repeated Toothless. "Newt with wings?" "You're not a newt with wings, are you, Toothless?" said Hiccup. "You're the best hunter in the world, aren't you?" "Too right I am," said Toothless grumpily. "You show that snot-faced Snotlout and his snobby dragon what a real hunting dragon can do," said Hiccup urgently. "Okay then," said Toothless. Hiccup heaved a huge sigh of release as Toothless took off his shambolic fashion in the general direction of the sea. "This is too good to be true," Hiccup said to himself 10 minutes later as Toothless returned from a second trip, clearly too bored for words, but dropping a couple of herring at Hiccup's feet. "In about half an hour, I, Hiccup, will become a fully paid-up member of the Hairy Hooligan tribe." It was too good to be true. Fireworm was just flying back to Snotlout with her 20th fish, her green cat eyes snapping with triumph, when Toothless called out, "Sloppy snob!" Fireworm stopped in midair, her head whipped round, her eyes narrowing. "What did you say?" hissed Fireworm. "Oh no," said Hiccup. "No, Toothless, no, don't do it." "Sloppy snob," jeered Toothless. "Is that the best you can do? It's pathetic, hopeless. You useless, you nightmare, you think you're so cruel, but you're so sloppy as scallops." "You," hissed Fireworm, her ears dangerously back as she crept forward through the air like a leopard about to spring, "are a little liar, and you, Toothless," said Toothless calmly, "a rabbit-hearted, seaweed-brained, winkle-eating snob." Fireworm went for him. Toothless streaked off as quick as lightning, and Fireworm's massive jaws snapping together with a sickening crunch on nothing but thin air. Chaos ensued. Fireworm completely lost control. She plunged wildly through the air, claws out, biting anything that moved and letting out great bursts of flames. Unfortunately, in the process, she accidentally scratched Killer, a dragon with a very short temper. Killer then attacked Hooligan Dragon with biting distance. Soon the dragons were involved in a full-scale, rip-roaring dragon fight, with the boys running around, shouting at them, stopping and trying to pull them apart without getting killed themselves. The dragons took absolutely no notice whatsoever. However hard the boys yelled, and Thuggery and Snotlout were red in the face after some pretty impressive yelling, Gobber the Belch went ballistic on the sidelines. "Can somebody tell me what in Thor and Wooden's name is happening?" Toothless was in his element in this kind of chaos, dodging Fireworm's angry lunges with ease, nipping in with a lively bite at an alligator, here and scratching a bright claw there, obviously enjoying the fight enormously. Even Horrorcow showed a great deal of spirit. For a dragon who was supposedly vegetarian, she managed to give Fireworm a truly impressive bite on the bottom as Fireworm and Killer rolled through the air, biting chunks out of one another. Gobber the Belch entered a fray, grabbing hold of Fireworm's tail. Fireworm gave a howl of outrage, squirmed round and set Gobber's beard on fire. With one massive hand, Gobber swatted out the fire, and with one other he clamped Fireworm's jaws together so she could neither bite nor burn. He tucked the furiously enraged animal under one arm, still holding her mouth closed. "Stop!" screamed Gobber the Belch, with a hair-raising, skin-crawling, fang-dropping yell that reverberated off the cliffs, bounced off the sea, and whose faint echoes could be heard on the mainland. The boys used this useless screaming. The dragon stopped in mid-air. There was an awful silence. Even the watching crowd went quiet. This had never happened before. All 20 boys had shown themselves to be completely out of control of their dragons during the initiation test. Technically, this meant that all of them should be thrown out of the tribes into exile, and exile in this horrid climate could mean death. Food was scarce, the sea was dangerous, and there was uncertain wild tribes in the Isles who were rumoured to be cannibals. Gobber the Belch stood lost for words, his beard still smoking. When he eventually spoke, his voice was deep with horror of the situation. "I will have to speak to the elders of the tribe," was all he said. He dropped Fireworm on the ground. She had come to her senses and now slunk towards Snotlout, her tail between her legs. The elders of the tribe were Mogadon, Stoic, Gobber himself, and a few more of the fearsome warriors, such as Terrible Toughnut, the Vicious Twins, and the hairy, scary librarian from the Meathead Public Library. The crowd of the boys stood absolutely still as the elders consulted in the traditional elder huddle, which looked a little bit like a rugby scrum. Meanwhile, the storm was getting worse. Huge claps of thunder burst over their heads. The rain poured, and they couldn't have been seen much wetter if they had all jumped in the sea. The elders consulted for a long time. Mogadon got angry at one point and swung a fist at Toughnut. A twin held on to each of his arms until he calmed down. Eventually, Stoic came out of the huddle and stood before the boys, who were hanging their heads in shame. The dragons at their feet. If Hiccup had been able to look at his father, he would have seen that Stoic was not his normal, merrily violent self. He looked very solemn indeed. "Novices of the tribe," he bellowed grimly, "this is a very bad day for you. You have failed the final test of the initiation program. By the fierce law of the Inner Isles, this means that you should be cast out from the tribes into exile forever. I do not want to do this, not only because my son is among you, but also because it will mean that a whole generation of warriors is lost to the tribes. But we cannot ignore our law. Only the strong can belong. In this case, the blood of the tribes should be weakened. Only heroes can be hooligans and meatheads." Stoic jabbed a fat finger at the heavens. "Furthermore," he carried on, "the god Thor is really very angry. This is not the moment to weaken our laws." Thor let out a great crash of thunder, as if it was underlined at this point. "Under normal circumstances," said Stoic, "the ceremony of exile would start now, but going to sea in weather like this would mean certain death for all concerned. As an act of mercy, I will allow you one more night of shelter under my roof, and first thing tomorrow morning you will set ashore on the mainland to fend for yourselves. From this moment forth, you are all banished. You may not talk to any other member of your tribe." The thunder crashed all around the boys as they stood, heads bowed in the rain. "Pity for me, this is the saddest thing I have ever had to do, to banish my own son," said Stoic sadly. The crowd murmured sympathetically, applauding the nobility of the leader. "A chief cannot live like other people," he said, Stoic, looking almost pleadingly at Hiccup. "He has to decide what is good for the tribe." Suddenly Hiccup was very angry. "Well, don't expect me to pity you," said Hiccup. "What kind of a father thinks his stupid laws are more important than his own son? And what kind of stupid tribe is this anyway? That it can't just have ordinary people in it?" Stoic stood looking down at his son in surprise and a shock for a moment. Then he turned round and trudged off. The tribes were already running off the beach and scrambling up the hillsides towards the shelter of the village, lightning coming down all around them. "I'm going to kill you," hissed Snotlout at Hiccup, Fireworm snarling menacingly from his shoulder. "First thing after we're banished, I'm going to kill you and run after those others. I've lost my tooth," Toothless complained whiningly. "Came out when I bit the fire dragon." Hiccup took no notice. He looked up at the heavens beside himself with the fury of the wind, scoped up the water sea in handfuls, and flung it straight into his face. Just once, yelled Hiccup. Why couldn't you let me be a hero? Just once. I didn't want anything amazing, just to pass this stupid test, so I could be a proper Viking like everybody else. Thor's thunder boomed and crackled above him blackly. Okay then, screamed Hiccup. Hit me with your stupid lightning. Just do something to show me that you're thinking of me at all. But there was to be no bolts of lightning for Hiccup. Thor clearly didn't think he was important enough for an answer. The storm to move out onto the sea. Wow, that was a long chapter. End of chapter 10. Come back ready for chapter 11 tomorrow. Bye-bye.